Asheville, North Carolina is almost completely underwater. I'm Doug TenNapel. This is the Doug TenNapel channel. I hope you'll join me to pray for North Carolina and parts of East Tennessee. The devastation is amazing over this storm and flood. This is about leadership, Trump versus Harris and Biden. Here's Joe Biden. This is just a disaster. It shows he's completely cooked. I'll explain in just a minute. They ask him about strikes in Yemen, and he ends up confusing it with strike negotiations. It's bad.
Mr. President, will you deploy more U.S. troops to the Middle East?
Mr. President, has Netanyahu gone too far?
Any comment on the strikes in Yemen, Mr. President?
Both sides have got to settle the strike. The collective bargaining effort, I think they'll settle the strike.
Okay, in case you didn't hear it, they asked him any comments on the strikes in Yemen from that happened from Israel. Huge outburst over this weekend. And he mixes it up with strike negotiations. Here's Greg Price with a transcription. Any comments on the strikes in Yemen? Biden, I've spoken to both sides. They got to settle the strike. I'm supporting the collective bargaining effort. I think they'll settle the strike. And he says, this guy is cooked. This is your country with no one in charge. Now, who steps in? Trump's not even president. And he's down there. He's trying to get a visit in to North Carolina.
Have you reached out to President Biden about federal relief efforts?
No, I haven't reached out to him. No, I think he's sleeping right now, actually. Being responsive. The federal government is not being responsive.
Okay, Biden, I understand, came off his vacation and is on his way down there to visit now. But can you imagine, how is he going to help instill any confidence in the people on the ground that they're going to be okay?
They're having a very hard time getting the president on the phone. He won't get on. And of course, the vice president, she's out someplace campaigning, looking for money.
Kamala, she's out looking for money. Actually, they released this photo op of her on a plane. Let me just do this. This is her posting on X, America's news source. Vice President Kamala Harris. I was just briefed by FEMA, Deanne Criswell, on the latest developments about the ongoing impacts of Hurricane Helene. We also discussed our administration's continued action to support emergency response and recovery. One problem, if you look closely at this photograph, okay, she's writing notes on a piece of paper, and the piece of paper is blank, even though her pen is 3/4 of the way down the page. Also, she's wearing that Tiffany $60,000 necklace, and here's earbuds that are in her ear, but if you follow the cord down, they're not plugged into her phone. This is all fake. Here's Molly Hemingway with report. This is the most Veep-like photo ever, pretending to be on the phone call, but forgetting to plug in the antiquated headphones while pretending to write on a blank piece of paper instead of actually doing anything.
Do you expect Iran to retaliate?
On the hurricane, Mr. President, why weren't you and Vice President Harris here in Washington commanding this weekend?
I was commanding. I was on the phone for at least 2 hours yesterday and the day before as well. I command. It's called a telephone. And all my security people.
Is it not important for the country to see?
Remember how Trump went, and he's talking to the press right now, taking questions. Here's Kamala Harris doing a drive-by of the press. And she's gone. You get nothing from her. Here's Trump with specifics on what needs to be done on the ground.
So they have to be focused over here. It's too big. This is a really bad one. And the governor's doing a good job, but he's having a hard time getting the president on the phone. They're being very non-responsive.
That's Biden, non-responsive. Here's Trump on X. We are now heading to Valdosta, Georgia, in order to pay my respects and bring lots of relief material, including fuel, equipment, water, and other things to the state. Many politicians and law enforcement will be there. We'll be saying hello to Franklin Graham, Burt Jones, Tyler Harper, Mike Collins, Austin Scott, Russ Goodman, Sam Watson, and the mayor of Valdosta, Scott James. They are working very hard. I was also going to stop into North Carolina, which has been hit hard. I have a lot of supplies ready for them, but access and communication is now restricted, and we want to make sure the local emergency management is able to focus on helping the people most effective and not being concerned with me. I'll be there shortly, but don't like the reports that I'm getting about the federal government and the Democrat governor of the state going out of their way not to help in the Republican areas make America great again.
We're trying to, I just spoke to Elon. I'm getting him. We want to get Starlink hooked up because they have no communication whatsoever. And Elon will always come through. We know that. And so we're working on that, getting them hooked up. They asked me whether or not that would be possible. We're going to try and get the Starlink in there as soon as possible because they have no communication.
Yeah, and this is an area, we do volunteer work. You guys paid us, my church, our team goes down and does repair work in Dalton, Georgia. And that rescue team right now is down there doing disaster relief for Georgia.
We're also going to be we're talking with North Carolina. We're trying to get them hooked up with communication. They're totally closed right now. North Carolina has really been hit hard.
North Carolina, and I want to talk about Asheville, is one of the coolest art places there are in the South, and it's completely underwater. That whole art district, 7 feet underwater. So my fellow artists out there in the South, our hearts break for you. We are praying for you. Please let us know that you're praying for the disaster survivors. Let us know down in the comments below. Just say, send a prayer up for North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia, and Florida. I'm Doug in Exile.